Every single night, something smaller than your thumbnail is hunting you. And it has a better success rate than any predator on the planet. We are not talking about lions. We are not talking about sharks. We are not even talking about something you can see coming. The mosquito, that infuriating, whining little needle with wings, kills more human beings every single year than every other animal on Earth combined. Every 30 seconds, somewhere in the world, a person loses their life because of a mosquito bite. Let that land for a moment. 30 seconds. The time it took you to read that sentence. Gone. And yet, here we are, still swatting at them on our patios, still waking up at 2 in the morning to that high-pitched drone next to our ear, still scratching red welts on our ankles the morning after a barbecue. We keep buying the candles, the sprays, the wristbands, the plug-in devices, and mosquitoes keep winning. But today, that changes, because what I am about to show you is not another product. There is nothing to buy. There is no subscription. Everything you need is already sitting in your kitchen right now. Today, you are going to learn how to build a trap that mimics the one thing mosquitoes cannot resist. And once they go in, they do not come back out. So before we get into the actual build, let us talk about why everything you have probably tried before has failed. Because understanding the enemy is what separates people who solve the problem from people who just manage the annoyance forever. Mosquitoes are not random. They are not flying around bumping into things hoping to find a meal. They are precision hunters. Every flight path, every hover, every landing, it is guided by signals. They track carbon dioxide plumes across hundreds of meters. They sense body heat. They detect the lactic acid and ammonia in your sweat. They are, in proportion to their size, some of the most sophisticated biological trackers on the planet. So when you light a citronella candle, what exactly are you doing? You are adding a smell to the air. That is it. You are not eliminating the CO2 you are breathing out. You are not removing the heat your body radiates. You are not stopping the sweat on your skin. All you are doing is adding one more competing scent to an already complex chemical signal. And mosquitoes are very, very good at filtering that out. Studies have shown citronella candles reduce mosquito landings by a modest percentage at best. The marketing makes them sound like force fields. The reality is closer to mildly inconvenient perfume. Chemical sprays, on the other hand, do work. DET, picaridin, IR3535. These compounds genuinely interfere with the mosquito's sensory receptors. But here is the problem most people do not think about. A spray protects your skin. It does not protect your garden. It does not protect the air around your food when you are eating outside. It does not protect your kids running around the lawn. And the moment the spray wears off, or you sweat through it, or it rains, you are right back to square one. Electric zappers. You have heard them, that satisfying crack in the dark. The problem? Studies have consistently found that mosquitoes make up a tiny fraction of what those zappers actually kill. The vast majority of insects dying in that light are moths, beetles, midges, and other insects that are doing absolutely nothing to harm you. You are running an execution device aimed at the wrong crowd, while the actual culprits fly right past it unharmed. And then there is the nuclear option. Professional fogging. Garden sprayed, problem solved, right? For about 3 days, maybe a week. Then mosquitoes from neighboring gardens, from nearby water sources, from anywhere within range, simply move back in. You have killed the current population, but you have done nothing about the conditions that attract them. It is like mopping the floor without fixing the leaking pipe above it. Here is the question nobody is asking. What if instead of trying to repel mosquitoes or shock them or spray them away, you gave them exactly what they want and turned that want into a trap? That is the principle behind what you're about to build, and it is rooted in real biology, not marketing copy. Mosquitoes follow carbon dioxide. That is their primary long-range navigation signal. When you breathe out, you release a plume of CO2 that drifts through the air, and mosquitoes can detect it from up to 50 meters away. That is why they always seem to find you, even when you are sitting still in the dark. They are not seeing you. They are following your breath. Now here is the fascinating part. Yeast produces carbon dioxide too. When yeast consumes sugar in a warm, moist environment, it ferments. And fermentation produces CO2 as a byproduct. The chemical signature of that CO2 plume is, to a mosquito's sensory system, remarkably similar to the breath of a living creature. They cannot tell the difference. So what you're going to do is build a continuous, self-sustaining CO2 source using yeast and sugar. You are going to place it in an open container, and you are going to add one more ingredient that makes the whole thing ruthlessly effective: dish soap. Dish soap destroys the surface tension of water. Mosquitoes that land on plain water can stand on it, lay eggs in it, and take off again. Mosquitoes that land on soapy water cannot do any of those things. The surface collapses beneath them instantly. They go in, and they do not come out. It is not dramatic. It is not messy. It is just physics, doing its job quietly. Are you starting to see why this works when everything else does not? Good. Let us build it. You will need a container, a bucket, a large bowl, or even a 2-liter bottle with the top cut off. The size matters a little. Larger surface area means more exposure, more mosquitoes drawn in, more contact with the soap layer. A standard bucket is ideal, but use what you have. Step 1 is the water. Pour in roughly 1 liter of warm water. Not hot, not cold, warm. Think of the temperature you would use to dissolve sugar in tea. Hot water will kill the yeast before it can do anything useful. Cold water will slow the fermentation to a crawl. Warm water is the sweet spot that gets things moving fast and keeps them moving for days. Step 2 is the activation. Add 1 tablespoon of dry, active yeast. This is the standard yeast you find in any supermarket, the kind used for baking bread. Add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. Brown sugar works better than white because the trace molasses content gives the yeast additional nutrients to feed on, which means more vigorous fermentation and a stronger, more consistent CO2 output. Give the mixture a slow, gentle stir. You are not whipping it. You are just combining the ingredients. Within 3 to 5 minutes, you should see small bubbles beginning to form at the surface. That is your CO2. That is the signal going out. That is your mosquito magnet switching on. Watch it for a moment. It is genuinely satisfying. Step 3 is the soap. Add 1 tablespoon of dish soap to the surface of the mixture. Here is an important detail. Do not stir it in. Let it float on top. You want a layer of soapy water at the surface, not a uniformly soapy solution throughout. The mosquito needs to land on the surface, and the soap needs to be waiting right there when they do. If you mix it thoroughly, the surface tension reduction is diluted and the effect is weakened. Pour it in gently and leave it. Step 4 is positioning. This is where most people underestimate the difference they can make. A trap placed in the wrong location catches far fewer mosquitoes than one placed in exactly the right spot. So where should you put it? First, near standing water. Mosquitoes breed in standing water. Bird baths, plant sources, clogged gutters, old pots left out in the rain, puddles that have sat for more than a few days. If you have any of these in your garden, that is ground zero for your mosquito population. Position the trap within a meter or 2 of these sources. You are intercepting them before they even start hunting. Second, shaded corners. Mosquitoes are not sun worshippers. They rest in cool, damp, shaded spots during the day and become most active in the hours around dawn and dusk. The shadiest corners of your garden, under hedges, behind large pots, along fence lines with dense planting. Those are the resting spots. Put a trap there. Third, near entry points. Doorways, window frames, the gap under a back gate. Anywhere mosquitoes might transition from your garden into your home is a prime location for a trap. If you are dealing with mosquitoes inside the house, the logic is the same. Place the trap away from where you are sitting. You do not want to compete with yourself. Position it in a corner of the room, near the floor, away from strong airflow that might disperse the CO2 plume before it can do its job. The mosquitoes will follow the plume toward the source and encounter the trap before they find you. Now, let us talk about what to expect, because managing expectations is important here. This is not a one-time fix that seals the air like a force field. This is a sustained reduction strategy. On the first night, you will likely notice a meaningful drop in the number of mosquitoes you encounter. Not zero, but fewer. By the third night, if you have positioned the trap well and replaced the mixture at the right time, you should be seeing a significant reduction in activity around the areas you use most. Why do some people not get results? There are a few common mistakes. One is placing the trap too close to where people are sitting. The CO2 from human breath is stronger than what the yeast produces, so the mosquitoes will choose you over the trap every time if you're within a few meters of it. Keep some distance between yourself and the trap. Think of the trap as a decoy drawing them away from you, not a magnet you carry around with you. The second mistake is not refreshing the mixture often enough. Fermentation does not last forever. After 3 to 4 days, the yeast has consumed most of the available sugar. CO2 output drops sharply, and the trap becomes much less effective. Mark the day you made it and set a reminder. 3 days in, tip it out, rinse the container, and start fresh. Those 90 seconds of maintenance are what keep the trap working week after week. The third mistake is having only one trap. If you have a large garden, a single trap in one corner is not going to intercept every mosquito on the property. 2 or 3 traps positioned strategically will cover far more ground and work together to reduce the overall population. Think of it as a network, not a single point of defense. Let us also address standing water directly, because no trap in the world is as effective as eliminating the breeding sites that are constantly producing new mosquitoes right in your own garden. A single female mosquito can lay up to 300 eggs at a time. Those eggs hatch within 24 to 48 hours in warm weather. The larvae develop into biting adults in as few as 7 days. If you have a bird bath that you refill once a week, a plant saucer that collects rainwater, a blocked gutter with a damp patch, you have a mosquito nursery running continuously. The trap catches adults. But removing breeding sites cuts the population at the source. Here is a practical checklist. Go around your garden and look for any container that holds water. And that means any container, even bottle caps and the curved leaves of certain plants. Tip out anything that does not need to be there. For things you want to keep, like bird baths, change the water every 3 to 4 days before eggs can hatch. For gutters, check them after heavy rain. For ponds and larger water features, add a small pump to keep the water moving. Mosquitoes only lay eggs in still water, never in moving water. Do you have a garden that feels genuinely mosquito-free? You need both strategies working at once: traps handling the adults and source elimination cutting the next generation. Now let us talk about the indoor version specifically, because a lot of people assume mosquitoes are mainly a garden problem. They are not. Once a mosquito is inside, the dynamics change. It is now in an enclosed space with multiple warm bodies producing CO2. The challenge is different, and the approach needs a small adjustment. For indoor use, reduce the size of the mixture slightly. Half a litre of water with 1 teaspoon of yeast and 1 tablespoon of brown sugar is enough. You want a gentle, steady CO2 output, not a vigorous bubbling that might disturb anyone sleeping nearby. Place it near the floor at the far end of the room from where people are sleeping or resting. Mosquitoes tend to stay low and work their way toward warmth and CO2, so having the trap at floor level in a corner is effective. One additional option indoors is to cover the container loosely with a piece of dark fabric or paper that has small holes punched in it. Mosquitoes are more attracted to dark surfaces and shadowed openings. The loose cover creates that visual cue while still allowing the CO2 plume to drift out and the mosquitoes to enter through the holes. It sounds fussy, but it makes a real difference in how many mosquitoes are drawn to investigate rather than flying past. There is also the question of what you wear, when you are outside, and the trap is deployed. Light-coloured clothing reflects heat and is less visually attractive to mosquitoes than dark clothing. Loose-fitting clothes are harder for mosquitoes to bite through than tight fabric stretched against the skin. Avoiding scented lotions, perfumes, and strongly fragrant sunscreens reduces the chemical signals you broadcast. None of these things replace the trap, but together they reduce the signals you are sending while the trap sends competing ones. You become a less interesting target, and the trap becomes the obvious destination. Are you building a picture of how these layers stack up? Trap placement, source elimination, personal signaling reduction. Each one reduces the problem independently, and together they compound into something that actually changes how your garden feels in the evening. Let us talk about scale for a moment. This trap works remarkably well for a single household. If you are dealing with a larger property, a communal outdoor space, or an area close to farmland or dense vegetation, the principles remain the same. But the number of traps and the frequency of maintenance need to scale up accordingly. For a large garden, 3 to 5 traps distributed across different zones, particularly near the boundary where mosquitoes enter from neighbouring areas, will create overlapping coverage. For communal areas like shared courtyards, the same approach works, but you might want to coordinate with neighbours so that you are not dealing with constant reinfiltration from untreated adjacent spaces. There is also a seasonal element worth understanding. Mosquito populations are not constant throughout the year. They peak in warm, humid weather, typically late spring through early autumn in temperate climates. During peak season, refresh traps every 3 days and replace them if they tip over or are significantly diluted by heavy rain. Outside of peak season, you can relax the maintenance schedule or decommission the traps entirely until conditions warm up again. What about natural companions to this method? Some people combine the trap with plants that mosquitoes find unpleasant. Certain plants produce volatile compounds that interfere with mosquito sensory systems or simply mask the human scent signals that attract them. Lavender, basil, catnip, rosemary, and lemon balm are among the most documented. None of them work as standalone solutions. The research does not support that claim for open outdoor spaces, but placed near seating areas, in combination with active traps, they add another layer of signal disruption. The key insight is this: mosquitoes are navigating toward you using a stack of signals: CO2, heat, lactic acid, visual contrast, humidity. The more of those signals you can disrupt, redirect, or replace with decoy sources, the fewer mosquitoes reach you. The trap handles the CO2 signal, which is the dominant long-range attractor. Plants and clothing choices chip away at the shorter-range signals. Source elimination reduces the total population you are dealing with. There is one more thing worth addressing, a question I suspect a lot of people are thinking, but not asking. Is this actually safe? Is there anything in this mixture that I need to worry about with children, pets, or wildlife nearby? The answer is straightforward. The mixture is water, sugar, yeast, and dish soap. Those are 4 of the most benign substances in your home. The yeast fermentation produces carbon dioxide, the same gas you breathe out, in quantities that are completely negligible in an open outdoor space. The dish soap is a surface active agent that affects insects because of their relationship with water surface tension. For mammals, birds, and larger animals, there is nothing in this trap that poses any meaningful risk. The one sensible precaution is to keep the container stable so it does not tip over and create a puddle of soapy water where small animals might walk. A bucket with a slight weight at the bottom placed on a flat surface does the job perfectly. That is it. No toxins, no chemicals, no fumes, no risk. And the cost? Let us be precise about this. 1 litre of water from your tap. A fraction of a teaspoon of yeast. A packet of yeast costs pennies and contains enough for dozens of refreshers. A tablespoon of brown sugar, which amounts to a few pennies at most. A squirt of dish soap that you already have. The container is something you already own. The total cost of running this trap continuously for an entire summer is less than the cost of a single can of mosquito spray. And it works better. Not marginally better. Substantially better. Because it works with mosquito biology rather than against it, rather than trying to overpower a sensory system that has evolved over millions of years, This method speaks that system's language and uses it to lead mosquitoes into a trap of their own making. That is the difference between a solution and a band-aid. That is the difference between treating the symptom and addressing the mechanism. Let us do a final recap before you go build this. Warm water, roughly 1 litre. Dry active yeast, 1 tablespoon. Brown sugar, 2 tablespoons. Stir gently and wait for fermentation to begin. Dish soap, 1 tablespoon, placed on the surface without stirring. Position near standing water, shaded resting spots, or entry points. Keep it away from where you spend time outdoors. Refresh every 3 to 4 days. Deploy 2 or 3 traps for larger spaces. Eliminate standing water around your property to cut breeding at the source. That is the complete system. 5 minutes to build, almost nothing to spend. Results from the very first night. If this has genuinely been useful to you, if you are thinking about how different your garden could feel this summer, how much better your sleep might get, how many fewer mornings you will wake up covered in bites, then do one small thing right now. Hit the like button. It takes 1 second, it costs you nothing, and it is the single most useful thing you can do to help this information reach more people who need it. This channel, my channel, exists to bring you practical, research-backed solutions to real everyday problems. Not gimmicks, not sponsored recommendations, not things that sound good in an ad but do not survive contact with reality. Real methods, real biology, real results. And if you are already thinking about what else you can do to take back your outdoor spaces, you are going to want to watch the next video, because it covers something just as powerful. The specific plants that naturally repel mosquitoes and how to position them for maximum effect. It is the perfect companion to everything you have learned today, and together these 2 methods create a genuinely formidable defense. Go build your trap. Your evenings are waiting.